Hello, this is Julius from Basic Financials. I'm going to do a general video today. Didn't really know what to call this, a sort of a life cycle of your personal finances, I suppose that's what you might call it. It's just a thought on ways that you might sort of manage your finances over your lifetime almost. And the two distinctions that are mainly coming up with, and from taking it from a business point of view, the distinctions are profit and loss account and the balance sheet, or income and expenditure, and your net assets. Now, when you're a child, everything's very nice and simple. You might be, if you're lucky, you're getting given some pocket money each week, and you might go and stand in the shop and spend it on some sweets or some comics or something like that, or say you might even then get into saving up for something that you want. But so to start with, it's probably just income and expenditure. Now, you probably don't think about saving anything. You get your money and you want to spend it, and that's the sort of simplest form, I suppose, of managing your finances. You get given your money or work for it, and then you spend it on things. Now, when you're in that stage, you're probably only going to be looking at your profit and loss account, or your income and expenditure, and that's you might not even be looking at it then. What you might find, if your parents are thinking about trying to give you some sort of financial knowledge, they might sort of show you this is where your income's coming from, why you've got it, because you've done your washing up and stuff like that, and this is where you've spent it, and then just give you some idea of managing your finances. Now, that could carry on for quite some time, and some people never get out of that situation where they're just managing their income, managing their expenses, wonder where it's all gone at the end of the month or end of the week. But so long as they've got enough coming in to manage it and to pay for what they want to pay for, then that's fine. And often what happens is they get more money coming in, they spend more money, and buy bigger things and more expensive toys and like cars and things, and more expensive cars, bigger houses, and often that you stay in that sort of that mindset, I suppose. Now, one way of almost snapping out of that is to start managing your balance sheet. So you're looking at what your net assets are, what you have, what you actually own, what savings you've got, maybe what pensions you've got. And what you owe. Maybe you've got a house and you've got a mortgage, and the difference is your net assets. Now, to start with, it might be quite straightforward. You might be lucky enough to you've known that you want to buy a house, so you've actually managed to put some savings away from your income, found a deposit, bought a house with a mortgage. So your assets might be fairly straightforward at that point, because you might just have a bit in the bank. You might have you've got your house and you've got a loan, and then the net amount is your net worth, your net assets. So once you start getting into that situation, you're starting to look at your balance sheet as well. Once you start looking at your balance sheet, then you might start to think, I'd quite like to make that a bit bigger. So you might start saving some money, and also hope as you're going through your life without any too much problems, you might find that your incomes are increasing, and maybe if you're wise enough not to spend it all, you might be able to build up some sort of savings nest egg, partly for your retirement, maybe just for a buffer in case things go wrong. Maybe if you've got children, you might be thinking about, it'd be quite nice to leave some money for my children when they're older. And your things start to get bigger and more complicated. So you might start having ISAs and shares or investment accounts, and then your balance sheet all of a sudden gets a bit more complicated, it's a bit more exciting because you're looking at hopefully looking at things growing, and you're thinking, ooh, okay. Now, if throughout your life you just get your money, spend it all, that's fine. There's no right or wrong here. There are pros and cons of it all. If everyone saved all of their money, then the economy wouldn't do very well. If everyone spent all their money and got into debt, then that's a bit of a problem as well. But yeah, a whole load of problems with that. But there's nothing to saying one way is right or wrong. It's just different ways of doing it, and the options as well. Just to realise that, well, actually you don't have to spend everything. There's an option not to, and to save as well, and then maybe spend it something bigger later on, or not. Maybe pass it on to your children, and so they can spend it. Or they might pass it on to their children so they can spend it, etc., etc. That's why they introduced it. I'm not going to go into all of that. You can quickly get diverted. But what I'm saying really is there's the two things. You've got your income and expenditure, but then you've got your net worth, which is your balance sheet. And when you start thinking about that balance sheet, that's when you start to get maybe a bit more responsible. You feel things can get a bit more worrying because once you build up something a bit like a house of cards, say you build it up, but once you build things up, you become worried about losing it. So that's one of the downsides, and you can become a little bit more well. Everyone's different, but a bit worried basically. But as long as you're managing it, you should be okay. Now, as you start getting older, this is a little bit of a paradox. You start getting to the situation where, inheritance tax. So you've built up this nest egg, if you're lucky, thinking, I'll pass this on to my children. You've got your income coming in. Your pension income's fine, and it's probably fine that if you've been managing your things very carefully, you'll probably find that your income's probably more than you need, because all your pension people were telling you need 2/3 of your income. Well, I don't think that's right. 2/3 of your salary, but that isn't right. But not necessarily anyway. And then you're thinking, well, my assets are still growing. I'm going to be in the inheritance tax band, and then you start thinking, well, how can I give these stuff away, this money away? So you start getting into the other side of things. So there's the life cycle, and obviously what you'd probably be doing is passing on assets to your children, so that your estate goes below the tax thresholds or minimises it for inheritance tax, and then so that's the life cycle. So it's a strange thing when you think about it, trying to build things up and then trying to pass them away, trying to build them down again. But if you do start getting into problems at any time, where you find that you're spending more than you're getting in, and you're always in debt, that's when you might want to be looking more in depth at your income and expenditure. So often when you start looking at your balance sheet, then you start to get to the point where, as long as you see that growing, you start to not look at your income and expenditures so much, because you think, well, it's okay, I'm not spending more than I need to, and my income's what it is, can't do much about that. So you're just looking at your assets and trying to build them up. But there can come a time where if you are if your assets are going down, or even if you're going into debt for some reason, maybe you've lost your job and your income's not as high, or something like that's happened, then you might, the way to sort that out is to look at your income and expenditure in detail, to see where it's coming in and where it's going out. No, that's probably all I wanted to say about that. It was just a little thought I had about the different ways of looking at your income and in your assets, your expenses and your liabilities, and how it varies maybe through your life, and the different options for not having to spend everything that you earn, and also to say that there's not one right or wrong way. It's just people are different, and it takes all types to make the world tick along, doesn't it? So yeah, but thanks very much for listening, and yeah, like and subscribe as usual, please, and I'll see you again for another video sometime. Thank you.